Hello there all my lovely jewelry makers, I'm Christina at CSLdesigns, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make these unisex wire macrame bracelets. Now both of these will be available for sale in my shop. I'm going to leave a link to that in the description box down below, and there I also sell kits and other tutorials, but if you want to learn how you can make your own, then keep watching. Then we'll need our wire, and all the wire that I'm using is regular round wire, and the first gauge here is a 0.8mm, and this is silver coated copper wire. Then I have a 0.6mm, which is a copper wire, and finally a 1mm, which is also a copper wire. Of course you can mix and match your colors however you want to. As for the tools, of course we need some wire cutters, so I've got my flush cutters here, tweezers and nose pliers to manipulate the wire, and my 6-step bell making pliers to help make consistent loops. And finally I'm also just going to be using my mini macrame board here because it has all these notches all the way around. It makes it really easy to work with. And I'm just going to be working on the plain side. Now I will have all these tools and materials linked in the description box down below along with the material list. So let's get it all ready and let's get started. Then we need to cut some lengths of our wire ready, and first of all I have 3 lengths here of my 1mm, and these are 35 centimeters long, and these are going to be the holding wire running all the way through the bracelet. Then I have 3 lengths of the 0.6mm wire, and these are about 1 meter each. These will be working wires. And finally I've also got a meter of my 0.8mm. This will also be a working wire. Then I want to get my macrame board here because I want to start attaching my wires to it. So I've got my 3 lengths of the 1mm, so the holding wires, and I'm just going to work on the long side of the mini board here. Now I'm just going to leave a short little tail on the top, then just choose the middle slot and pull all 3 through that same slot, and then just flip it to the back. And then here on the back I'm just going to kind of bend them down so they come straight down on the back, and on the bottom I'm going to do the same. So just choose the slot directly opposite, make sure they're nice and tight on the board, bend them towards the back, and then I can flip it back around. So these are my holding wires attached now. Then I'm grabbing my 3 lengths of the 0.6mm, and again all together I'm just putting them through the slot right next to the other ones, and again on the back just bend them towards the back, and then we have that first group in place there. And for the final wire, so my length of 0.8mm, which is the different color in my case, again same principle, I'm just putting it through the slot on the opposite side of the holding wires there. And then we have our wires in place and ready to start doing our macrame. So the way that I'm going to work with this is that the 3 holding wires here in the middle, they just work as one, so we're always going to make sure that they are laying flat next to each other, and the 3 working wires, so the 0.6mm here, they're going to be used as if they were one as well, so in a group every time we move them. And I'm just going to start off with them, so I get to the very end and then I bring all 3 underneath the holding wires and then pull them out towards the opposite side, so we get a little loop here on this first side where they're coming from. Then the 0.8mm from the other side, which is silver in my case, it's coming underneath this group of 3. Then I grab the end, go over the top of the holding wires, and then down through this loop that we left on the other side. So we're coming underneath the group of 3 wires there on the opposite side, and then we have the wires kind of locked into place now, so they're going to catch around the holding wires, and then we can just gradually tighten them. Now this is the first one, so it's not too crucial because obviously it's still open at the top, but what I like to make sure to do is that my group of 3 wires here, that they continue to lay flat all the way through the knot as well. So just tighten it to this point where you can't really tighten it anymore. Then I grab my group of 3 again. I'm going to start with this all the time, bring it underneath, pull it all the way towards the other side, so we have a bit of a loop here on the first side. Then the 0.8mm comes underneath the group, goes over the top of the holding wires, and then down through the loop on the first side here, so underneath the group on the opposite side. And then I like to just pull them a little tighter so we get the loops on the sides smaller, and then that's when I make sure that the group of 3 here, they're laying flat next to each other before I start pulling it completely tight. And what I also like to do is put my finger on the group to keep them flat. I find that that helps, and then we just want to start pulling it, and then just pull it as tight as we can basically, so like that. And this is our first knot. And then basically all we need to do now is continue this. So grab my group of 3, bring it underneath the holding wires to the opposite side, then grab my 0.8mm length, bring it underneath the group, over the top of the holding wires and down through the loop on the opposite side, and then just pull it through, and then we can start to pull it tighter. And then you're probably able to see that here they're starting to kind of overlap each other, the 3 wires in that group. So before I pull it completely tight, I just want to make sure that they lay flat next to each other. So basically organize them, and then then when you have them in place, start to pull it tighter. And like I said, I like to hold my finger on the group to keep them flat, and then you pull it as tight as you can. And then you can see we get these little loops on the side with the group of 3, and the silver wire in my case is mainly visible in the middle over the top of the holding wires, so that's why I chose the different colors as well, to really make that stand out. What I also just want to mention is because this is wire that we're working with, so obviously it reacts quite differently than if it was cord. Every time I make a knot and I pull my wire, I like to just smooth it out between my hands and fingers again, because it'll kind of take the shape of your hands because of the heat as well. So just smooth it out as you go, and then you just want to continue like this, making the length that you need. So now I've reached the length that I want here, we can then remove it from the macrame board. Then we need to finish off the ends, and I'm just going to show you on one here. So it doesn't matter what side you start on, but on one side obviously we have the group of 3 wires of the 0.6 mil. So what I'm going to do is take it, the side that they're coming out from, bring it over towards the opposite side, so over the top of the holding wires in the middle. Then I'm going to take my flush cutters and I want to go in and cut off the excess, but making sure there's just a couple millimeters after where we bent them over. So cut them off, something like that. And then I take my tweezer nose, and right now they're kind of sticking out a little bit, so we want to make sure we push them down flat and basically push them to lay in between the other wires that we used for the macrame. So just push them in until you run your finger over it and you can't feel them anymore. And on the other side, I just flip it around. We have the single wire we used, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing. Bring it over towards the opposite side, cut off the excess, and then make sure to push it in so the end is not sticking out and you're able to catch or scratch on skin or clothes. And then what we have left are the 3 wires going straight up from the end, which are the holding wires running through the whole bracelet. So I'm just going to take the one to one side and push it forward, and then one to the other side, push it back, so they're kind of pushed away from each other like this, and the one in the middle is still going straight out. Then I'm going to start to bring the 2 that I've bent around that wire in the middle, kind of at the same time but opposite to each other. So I'm kind of spinning them around the middle wire just a couple of times, so we end up with something a bit like that. And then again, go in and cut off the excess, cutting them off right after that last wrap. And just like before, we always want to make sure to just push down the ends so they're not sticking out. And then what we have left is the length here coming straight out. And for that, I'm literally just going to put a loop into it. You could also use it to make the clasp itself. I'm just going to put a loop and then attach a separate clasp. So I'm going to go a little bit above where those wraps are that we made, bend it to the side. Then I'm taking my 6-step bail making pliers. You can also use round nose pliers, placing them on that bend and then bringing it back around the pliers all the way so we get a full circle. And then I grab onto that circle with my pliers, so make sure it doesn't go out of shape, while we bring the rest of the wire around the little gap that we left below the circle and just basically fill it in. And then I can also cut off the excess of that and make sure to squeeze that end down as well. And then there we have our final loop. And of course you just want to go to the other end and do the same thing. So I finished off both ends, and I've also attached my lofter claw clasp and extender chain. Then what we got left to do is shape this so we can obviously wear it. Now you'll find the front of this is where the single wires crossing over the holding wires, and the back looks a bit different. That's where you can see the group of 3 wires crossing in the middle there. So just make sure that the front is facing outward. Now I'm just going to go in and start putting a curve into this. So just go into a place and start gradually curving this. Now you can also put it around something that has the size and shape you want it to have, like a bracelet mandrel, and then you can just close it up here and you have your finished bracelet ready to wear. So that's how you make this unisex wire macrame bracelet, and it would also be great to use bare copper wire and oxidise because of all the texture. And don't forget, these will be available for sale in my shop. I'm going to leave a link in the description box down below, and there you can also sign up to my newsletter. Otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one.